Well, another busy MLS night action is all over, and you know what? From now on, I am never going to mention the fact that I expect there's going to be no more game that is going to be postponed. Because as soon as I said that in the news of the week video, literally 5 minutes after I finished recording that video, Minnesota versus Chicago Fire got postponed. And you can imagine how enraged I was when I heard that news, and that, once again, this is now going to be 7 days and counting. That is going to be the last time that saw the Loons play in a game against Nashville, and that they're going to be unfortunately part of many teams that is having the headache in terms of how in the world are they going to make up these games because of the fact that these games are postponed because of positive COVID-19 tests. But despite that unexpected kind of postponement that came literally just an hour away from kickoff of that game, we still did had 11 games that did actually play on. And we start off with the first one, which is Orlando City versus NYCFC. And in the end, it was a draw between both of these teams. Although Orlando, they looked like they were up for it early in this game. As 1 minute into this game, Pereira almost gave Orlando the opening goal when he went through on goal, but unfortunately hit the side netting. But again, Orlando, they were really up for it early on and was really gunning to try to get the early goal. And they eventually got it in the 18th minute when Chris Mueller was able to score from Juan to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City. Looked like it was 2-0 in favor of Orlando City in the 20th minute when Urso was able to tap it in near the back post, but unfortunately he was in an offside position there, and therefore the goal, of course, was disallowed. To be honest, I don't think when the ball was kind of trickling toward him, I'm not quite sure did he really need to take a touch to basically hit this one into the back of the net, but obviously I think he was just kind of making sure that the ball that was dancing in around the line doesn't just go wide, and that he trying to maybe redirect that one into the back of the net, so the goal of course counts. But the only problem is he was in an offside position. Now, despite the fact that Orlando looked good early in this game, NYCFC did start to kind of get back into this game and started to had a couple of chances before, right on the stroke of halftime, Keaton Parks was able to get the equalizer for NYCFC. And, as much as Brian Rowe would have a great night in this one, this is one that I think he would love to have it back, because originally when he saved that effort from Keaton Parks from close range, he kind of allow a juicy rebound bounce right near a spot where Keaton Parks can just quickly chase down the ball and just kind of tapped it into the empty net, and that's exactly what happened in this instant, as the game, of course, tied up at 1 apiece during that point, and that's also where we head into the second half. Now, in the second half, it was really a goalkeeping duel between two really good goalkeeper, as Sean Johnson first made an incredible save to able to Rob Nani, who I thought he puts that free kick in a perfect position, but Sean Johnson full stretch to be able to save that one. And just 4 minutes later, Brian Rowe also shows in this game of why he is just as a decent goalkeeper as Galais save for this Orlando City side, as he absolutely robbed Castellanos. And I think this one might have been even a better save, because Rowe was definitely kind of blocked by a lot of traffic in front of him, but somehow in some way he was able to react quickly to Castellanos, who definitely put a powerful header from point blank range, but Rowe was equally there to make a better save to deny NYCFC the opening goal, before Rowe would make another big save in the 82nd minute, this time denying to Jory Schrodi. And in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. Shots in this game, 18 shots compared to 9 that Orlando City has, 8 shots on goal compared to 2 that Orlando City has, 6 shots off target compared to 4 that Orlando City has, 4 shots out of block compared to 3 that Orlando City has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession. And overall, I think a draw is fair for both of these teams, and that this is actually the first time this season that NYCFC actually went down early in this game and they were able to get a point out of it, as their previous 7 games where they actually went down 1-0 in the game. They end up losing it after 90 minutes. And for Orlando, they of course extend their 11 game or their 10 game unbeaten streak to now 11. But obviously they'll be a little bit disappointed the fact that not only they draw a point at home in this game, but they definitely miss a big opportunity to make up of some of the top team in the Eastern Conference, which, by the way, the top 4 in the Eastern Conference, they all drop points during this midweek action. And we also end up having a lot of upset that happen in a resort of that. And one of them is the next game I'm going to talk about is TFC versus the New York Red Bulls. Now, I'm not quite sure would you call this kind of an upset because of the fact that the Red Bulls have started to show that they are coming back to life and that they're looking to try to snatch up these last couple of spots in the playoffs. But TFC is a team that were coming into this game with a 5-game winning streak, and they were definitely looking to try to make it 6 in a row coming into this one. Now, early on, TFC were kind of all over the Red Bulls. Mera had to make a good save to rob Pozuelo a chance for Toronto to get a 1-0 lead before Mera had to tip a Piazzi shot over the bar. But Pozuelo eventually puts away a penalty in the 22nd minute after Yearwood basically handballed it into the box. And yeah, TFC were up 1-0 at that point and certainly deserved the lead with the way that they were by far the better team. However, this is when the Red Bulls started to kind of come back into this game, and that Yearwood actually looked like he equalized for the Red Bulls not long after Westbrook was able to deny from about 18 yards out in the 29th minute. But unfortunately, that goal, of course, was being disallowed because of offside. And TFC was fortunate the fact that they were able to head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. Now, in the second half, the Red Bulls seems like they picked up where they left off in the first half, and they started to really pile on the pressure and trying to get the equalizer. And they probably should have done it in the 55th minute when Tom Barlow should have tied the game up after he fluffed a one-on-one opportunity. And Tom Barlow is another player that is pretty much belong the club of the attacker and also strikers in MLS. That seems like they have a curse that is put in front of them where they just cannot score goals this season, and that they've been in very bad form going forward on the attack. But Toronto, I also thought that, despite the fact that eventually they kind of did wake up a little bit and that they started to have a couple of chances to basically score the second goal, I also thought that they need to take those chances and they really need to kill this game off, because I feel like the Red Bulls were going to eventually have some more opportunity to tie this game up, and that I thought maybe they're going to also have one magical moment where they're able to score an amazing goal to tie this game up. And Lord and behold, it happened in the 76th minute, and for the second game in a row, Caden Clark scores an absolute goal. Lazo from about 27 yards out. Definitely a goal of the week contention of a goal, but this time, unlike the last one where it kind of overshadowed by a little bit of a controversy that had happened in that Atlanta game, there was no controversy in this goal. I mean, this was just absolute amazing strike that gave the equalizer for the New York Red Bulls. And then after the Red Bulls were able to get the equalizer, Toronto realized that, yeah, this is what happened when you don't kill the game off and you let the opponent to stay in the game. In that one magical moment, just like that, you're basically all tied up, and it's all back to square one in this game. So they started to push to try to get that go-ahead goal, but unfortunately it didn't come, as in the end it ends in a 1-1 draw between TFC and the Red Bulls. Shots in this game, 15 shots compared to 10 that the Red Bulls had, 6 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Red Bulls had, 3 shots off target compared to 4 that the Red Bulls had, 6 shots out of block compared to 2 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Red Bulls had. And again, as I said before, with the Red Bulls now still under interim head coach Bradley Cornell, I think he's been doing relatively good job in terms of really injecting some new energy into this team, and have really got this team where I thought this was a team that maybe were on on the verge of not making the playoffs for the first time in 10 years, and that they were going to the transitional period. But in these last couple of games, they've been able to get resort to get themselves stay in a spot where they look like they're in a good position of making the playoffs once again this season. And as for TFC, this is definitely frustrated. The fact that they had multiple opportunity to score more than one goals in this game, but they weren't able to do it. But the good news for TFC is that, as I mentioned, the other team that they have to deal with in terms of chasing them for the Supporters' Shield standing and the top spot in the Eastern Conference either lost or drew in today's resort. And one of the other team that were part of that top four is the Columbus Crew. And, as I mentioned before, 2020 has been a very crazy year. And 2020, it just seemed like not only we see upset resort, but it seemed like we always see a team that seems like they are on a one-side, they're on the wrong end of a one-sided rivalry, and yet somehow in some way they find a way to get their first win this season. Well, the Quakes did it a couple of weeks ago when they were able to knock down LAFC by winning 2-1 on the road to get their first ever victory in that rivalry. And this time, it's FC Cincinnati, the one that will finally get their first ever Hell is Real derby win by beating Columbus in this game. And I thought throughout this game, they looked like they were really up for it, and that they really not only want to end this miserable run that they've been on, but actually score a goal, which has not happened in over 500 minutes until in the 16th minute when Kubo was able to end the drought with a penalty. There was definitely question of whether or not if that, of course, was a penalty, and some will say that maybe when Tarbell kind of brought down Alan Cruz there, and he was trying to kind of attempt to punch that ball away, and that he kind of caught Alan Cruz in that situation. But for me, I think that was a stone cold penalty. Consider if Tarbell was going to try to punch that one away, you got to make sure that you get the ball and not the man. And unfortunately, in this instant, he got the man, didn't get the ball. That is obviously a stone cold penalty. And even if it's a controversial penalty, I think FC Cincinnati deserve, after what happened in the last game where they had a penalty late in the game wiped off because of VAR. Now, after they score that goal that finally ended their drought of almost going 500 minutes without scoring goals, it looked like it has really re-energized the team, and they looked like they were definitely more up for it compared to Columbus, where Columbus was very lackluster throughout this game. And they almost made it 2-0 when Barrero almost tapped it into the back post in the 25th minute before Medunian almost scored a kind of Olympico-esque free kick goal when he was able to take this one from a tight angle and almost bend it to the top left side of the post, but fortunately Tarbell was able to deny him and able to tip that one over the bar. But as we head around the halftime mark of this game, it looked like Cincinnati was going to head to halftime with a 1-0 lead, but then Patterson brought down Santos in the box, and this was also another controversial penalty, and that some people say that maybe it was a little bit soft the way that this penalty was given. But either way, it was given a penalty, and Santos was able to put it away in the 45th minute, and that has to be very demoralizing if you're FC Cincinnati, knowing the fact that throughout this game, and really throughout the first half, I thought they were by far the better team, and this goal that Santos scored was kind of against the run of plays, and that heading into the second half, I don't really have a lot of hope the fact that FC Cincinnati was going to be rediscover that energy that they had in the first half to just kind of completely dominate a team that are supposed to be one of the best team in the league right now. But instead, in the second half, not only the fact that they rediscovered that energy, but they retook the lead. And in the 49th minute, it was Nick Hagelin that was able to score from Medunian. What a beautiful ball this was from Harris Medunian that puts it on the plate for Hagelin to basically heads that one away to give FC Cincinnati the lead once again in this one. And that, I think once they scored that second goal, and I believe that's kind of their first goal goal that they have scored from open play in over 500 minutes. They once again rediscover that energy and that tenacity to finally get a win in a Hell is Real derby, like they did getting the opening goal when they really started to kind of attack and were really close a couple of times of potentially getting the third goal in this game. Now, as we get near the end of the game, Columbus, as I expected, there was definitely going to be some pushback that FC Cincinnati was going to face. And Columbus, despite the fact that throughout the game they were very lackluster, they were definitely trying to create that pushback and were really trying to push to get the equalizer late in this one. But fortunately for FC Cincinnati, despite the fact that they had to go all hands on deck, they were able to hold on to win their first Hell is Real derby against the Columbus Crew. And the shots in this game, 11 shots compared to 9 that Columbus had, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Columbus had, 6 shots off target compared to 5 that Columbus had in this game, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 40% possession compared to 60% possession, as Columbus woe this season continue into this one. And this is probably the one that hurts the most on the road for the Columbus Crew compared to all the other road games, because not only the fact that they lost to FC Cincinnati in their lost to FC Cincinnati in the Hell is Real derby for the very first time, but they lost to an FC Cincinnati side that's been winless for a very long time right now and having probably one of the worst season an MLS side has ever had. And yeah, the Crew, they need to start to figure things out, because as we get closer into the playoffs, it doesn't matter if you are a team that might finish in the top part of the table, but if you go to the playoff ice cold, you could definitely be in danger of getting knocked out early in the playoff round if you're going to be facing against a team that might be a lower seed against you, but they might have the momentum heading into the playoffs. While for FC Cincinnati, there's hope. There's definitely hope. The fact that with this win that they got, not only it's their first win they have in a very long time, but maybe this can potentially spark some energy into this team that has just been so lackluster throughout this season as a whole. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Montreal and New England. And for parts of this game, I thought this was going to be an absolute annihilation that the New England Revolution was going to put on the Montreal Impact, because in the first half, and especially in the first 30 minutes of this game, I thought New England could have been at least 4-0 up against Montreal, but the backup goalkeeper for Montreal, Pitemis, was able to first deny Kukuda Mane in the 9th minute. Diop wasn't available in this game and most likely won't be available for a very long time, because it was announced that he was actually going to head back to France because of some personal issues. So Pantemis was the one that comes in for him, and he was able to deny, as I mentioned, he was able to deny Mane early, as New England was just all over Montreal early in this game. But Mane was able to score a goal in the 13th minute when he scored from Buxa and Poster, before Pantemis was able to rob Fagundes a chance for New England to get that second goal. Only 2 minutes later, New England would get that second goal when it was Theo Bunbury who was left wide open in the box. Like, if you leave somebody wide open in the box, especially an attacker like Theo Bunbury, yeah, you know what's going to happen. That ball probably is gonna end up into the back of the net, and that, of course, was the case. And also a beautiful delivery from Butna to able to find Bunbury, who was just completely left isolated in the box. Now, as I mentioned, despite the fact that New England, they probably could have been 3 or 4-0 up heading into the 25th minute, Montreal was able to get one back, and it was Sidic that was able to score from Kyoto. And I thought that was not only completely against the run of play, but that was the first shot on goal that Montreal has. And if you're New England, despite the fact that up until that point, I think they outshot Montreal like 12-1, if you let just one goal in, despite the fact that they were not in this game entirely, that has to be very frustrating and very demoralizing, and that I thought that might also led to them kind of unravel a little bit, and it looked like that was the case in the 30th minute when they had to rely on Turner to able to deny Kyoto, and that Montreal could have easily been tied up at 2 apiece, despite the fact that they only had limited chance in the first half compared to New England having some boatloads of chances to potentially be up more than 2-1 heading into halftime. Now, in the second half, they eventually would make it get 3-1 and get the 2-goal advantage once again. And it's actually Buxa, the one that was able to score this third goal, and this has to feel good for Adam Buxa, a guy that, as I mentioned before, he belongs in the club of these many unfortunate attacker or unfortunate striker around the league that seems to be cursed in terms of scoring goals this season. Hopefully that goal will give him some confidence to rediscover his form that he has before coming to New England. But yeah, at that point it was a 3-1 game for New England, and I thought that was pretty much all finished. Although Montreal, one thing that at least they did in this game is that they didn't show any sign of just throwing the towel, and that they almost made it 3-2 in the 61st minute when Turner was able to once again deny Kyoto before on the follow-up Wanyama hits that one pretty much into Rosen off Red Bull Arena. But again, Montreal, they were really pushing to try to get themselves back into this game. And actually, I forgot to put the second goal that Montreal scored in this, but right on the 3rd minute of stoppage time, if I can pretty much look at the notes here, because I put this one down on the notes, but in the 2nd minute of stoppage time, actually I put it right here, yeah. So in the 2nd minute of stoppage time, Tabella was able to score from Kyoto to make it 3-2 in favor of New England, but unfortunately, since there was only 3 minutes of stoppage time, that goal pretty much was just a consolation, and it was just way too late for Montreal a chance to potentially complete a stunning comeback against New England. But yeah, in the end, New England was able to hold on to win 3-2 in this game, and the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 14 that Montreal has, 9 shots on goal compared to 6 that Montreal has, 8 shots off target compared to 7 that Montreal has, 5 shots out of block compared to 1 that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession, as New England continue to do so well this season on the road, while for the Impact, yeah, this is just not a good performance whatsoever, and even though they showed some fight in the end to try to come back in this game, you just cannot afford to get off to such a slow start and just find yourself in a big hole like that, because once you find yourself in a big hole like that, yeah, most likely you are not going to be coming back from this game. But moving on into the next match is Inter Miami and Atlanta, and for Miami, they should have won this game. I mean, there is no doubt that they should have won this game against Atlanta United, and in some way, we almost saw something that was very similar to a couple of weeks ago when NYCFC took on DC United. And how do you remember that game? DC United basically registered 0 shot in the entire game and only become the 2nd MLS team to do that. But they become the first MLS team to register 0 shot in the entire game, and yet they were still able to walk out with a 0-0 draw against NYCFC. Well, for a while in this game, it looked like we're going to see something similar in this one, or not really similar, but it looked like it was going to happen again, where Miami, unfortunately, will join NYCFC as the latest victim of not able to get all 3 points, despite the fact that they hold their opponent without a single shot in this game. Now, in the first half, Guzan was able to deny Higuain twice after he went through on goal, before Higuain had another big chance in the 24th minute. This time, he unfortunately hits a 24-yard free kick that just deflected wide. And again, Miami, they were in complete control in this game. It was pretty much one-way traffic, but the finishing was the only reason why this game remains 0-0, and that would be the way heading into the second half. Now, in the second half, again, Miami continued to dominate the game. Lewis Morgan had a chance to score his third goal in 3 games, but unfortunately he hits a free kick from 23 yards out. That was just a little bit too high. Then Guzan once again had to make some good save. This time denied Figal from long range. Guzan had an incredible game in this one, and that if it wasn't for Brett Guzan, I think Atlanta probably would not have got a point out of this one. Before, in the 66th minute, Anton Walks finally registered the first shot in this game for Atlanta, and I'm pretty sure if there was actually fans in the stands, or if this game was in Atlanta, there might have been some sarcastic kind of cheer the fact that finally Atlanta United was able to register their first shot, and at least they don't join DC United as only one of 3 teams to not register a single shot throughout the full 90 minutes. But despite the fact that they registered their first shot, their second shot didn't come until the 83rd minute, which we of course will get to it. In the 74th minute, Sweat just missed a 12-yard shot wide after he went through. He had a good opportunity to give Miami the 1-0 lead, but as much as Miami was wasting a lot of chance, it was inevitable, the fact that they were going to get the opening goal, and that finally happened in the 80th minute when none other than Brek Shea, the troll, also known as the Atlanta United legend, was able to score against his former team from Lewis Morgan. And, you know, we know that this year is 2020 and how crazy it is, but I didn't think in 2020 we would even see Brek Shea, who at that point looked like he got the winner against Inter Miami, and scored just such a beautiful goal that he did after a perfect cross from Lewis Morgan into the box, and that Shea just showed that amazing clinical finishing that pretty much been missing in his game for a very long time. But yet that of course is what happened, and that Inter Miami had the 1-0 lead, and that, you know, even for 2020, the headlines probably would be too good to be true. The fact that Brek Shea would be able to score the winning goal for Inter Miami, and he would do it against his former team, Atlanta United. But unlike the NBA, where it seemed like headlines and script seems to be so obvious to see, where people gets frustrated, the fact that it was clearly scripted and rigged. In MLS, there are no such thing like that for most, at least for most of these games, because just 3 minutes later, Marooney would score from Jurgen Damm, as that was the first shot on goal for Atlanta United and only the second shot in the entire game. And I think that goal completely demoralized and was just such a backbreaker for Inter Miami, because they literally just got the goal that they've been waiting to get after all that dominance, and yet just 3 minutes later they concede a goal on the other end to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And because of that, this game would finish 1-1 between both of these teams. And the shots in this game, 21 shots compared to just 3 that Atlanta has. 6 shots on goal compared to just 1 that Atlanta has, which is the Marooney goal in the 83rd minute. 10 shots off target compared to 2 that Atlanta has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to none that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession. And that for Inter Miami, what a big missed opportunity this was. The fact that if they could have won this game, they would actually be above the red line for the first time in their franchise history. But unfortunately, due to the fact that they could not finish in this game, and the fact that they kind of had a lapse of concentration, they end up to just only got a point out of this one. And this is going to be one of those games that if you're an Inter Miami fan, not only you will feel like this is a loss against Atlanta, even though you got a draw, but you better hope this is not one of those results where it's going to come back to haunt you if they just miss the playoffs by 1 or 2 points, because absolutely 99 out of 100 times, well, I would say 98 out of 100 times, because we did have one time where a game ended in a draw, despite the fact that one team was just dominating in terms of the stat chart. But 98 out of 100 times, when you have that many shots and you just control the game like what Inter Miami did to Atlanta, 98 out of 100 times, that has to be a win. But unfortunately, that of course is not the case. And Atlanta, they will feel like they got lucky in this one, despite the fact that they were never in this game except except right around the 83rd minute when they were able to take advantage and score their only goal in this one. But finally, moving into the last game, part one of the review. I forgot to mention this is only part one of the review, and that tomorrow I will look at the last 5 games from this weekend's, or not this weekend, but this midweek MLS action. But the last game that I'm going to talk about is probably one of the more surprising result of this season. And, I'm not quite sure should you say it's surprising because of the fact that both of these teams are, right around the bubble area in terms of making the playoffs, and that this was a massive game for both of these teams, knowing the fact that this is a game they can get a win. They can not only get themselves either above the red line or the fact that they can stay above the red line and get themselves a little bit of a cushion. And in the end, it was Nashville SC that was able to get the huge 6-pointer kind of type of game by winning 3-1 against Houston. And this game was pretty much over in 23 minutes because in the 15th minute, Hani Mukhtar would be able to score from Abu Denladi before Denladi himself scored from Washington to make it 2-0 in favor of Nashville. And I think I tuned in right after when Denladi scored that goal. And not only I'm happy to see Denladi, of course, scoring a goal with now Nashville SC, but I was kind of stunned the fact that Nashville was up 2-0 against Houston. And just 4 minutes later, after Denladi scored the second goal, they would make it 3-0 in favor of the Houston Dynamo when Mukhtar would score a beautiful free kick for about 24 yards out that is definitely going to be in contention for goal of the week. But I also say, what in the world is going on? Like, how in the world did Nashville, a team that only has scored more than 2 goals for the second time this season, are completely destroying a Houston Dynamo team that, while they're not having the best run so far this season, they're playing at home. Like, you would think you don't usually see Houston just fold like that at home, and especially find themselves 3-0 down against an expansion side just 23 minutes in the game. And then if I actually had a little bit more room on this board, I would also wrote, it looked like Houston were the one that looked like an expansion team compared to what Nashville is this season, being an expansion team. Now, to be fair, Houston did start to kind of get back into this game, and they kind of realized that, yeah, going down 3-0 at home in front of your home fans is definitely not nice, and we better start thinking about picking things up if we wanted to kind of turn things around. Now, they weren't able to do it for the remaining part of the first half, but in the second half, they definitely had a couple of chances to reduce the deficit. Ariel Laster, I think he clearly should have scored from close range in the 52nd minute, as he had a good opportunity to strike that one for about 6 yards out, but he wasn't able to put away. Before Joe Willis was able to deny Manotas in the 53rd minute. But that being said, just 5 minutes later, Leal almost made it 4-0 in favor of Nashville, but Marriage was able to deny him and at least keep this game respectable in a way that it won't be even a bigger shock, the fact that Nashville was just completely destroyed Houston on the road nevertheless. Now, the Dynamo eventually did get the goal that they've been looking for, and it came in the 75th minute when Quintero was able to score from Manotas and Ramirez. And that after that goal, you can definitely see Houston was putting all sorts of pressure on Nashville, and Nashville was really kind of holding on for dear life. But at the same time, if you're the Houston Dynamo and if you're Tab Ramos, you're going to be very disappointed the fact that it took until this point of the period where they actually started to show some desperation, and the fact that they start really crippling this Nashville team. Because where was this in the first half? Like, where was this kind of performance from the opening whistle? And this is kind of always the thing with teams, where when you find yourself down so early in the game, and you of course able to get yourself back into this and start to kind of dominate a little bit, it has to be frustrated the fact that you don't show that kind of same urgency and same kind of dominance as they would done in the early part of the game. And because of the fact that Nashville at that point was 3-1 up, even though I know the announcer were trying to make this game interesting, I knew it was kind of over, knowing the fact that there's no way Nashville was going to concede 3 goals and going to blow a 3-0 lead, even though they are on the road. Not with the way that this defense has been just absolutely lights out this season. And in the end, they were able to win 3-1 in this one. And the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 16 that Nashville has. 6 shots on goal compared to 7 that Nashville has. 8 shots off target compared to 4 that Nashville has. Both teams had 5 shots off target. And possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession. And for the Houston Dynamo and for Tat Ramos, this is definitely very concerning. And there's definitely some panic time down in Houston, because these are kind of the game that they have to win, especially at home, and if they want to get themselves into the playoff this season. You know, again, these are kind of the resort that they of course needed to win. But if you're in Nashville, this is exactly the resort that will get you into the playoffs. And I don't expect Nashville to kind of look like this every single game, because it's kind of almost like a shock, the fact that Nashville would really put it on despite how much they struggle in terms of scoring. But if they can continue to grind resort and get victory, yeah, Nashville could actually make the playoffs, and that would definitely exceed every expectation that Nashville SC fans have with their team heading into their inaugural year in MLS this season. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of part number 1 of this midweek action. Stay tuned tomorrow as I'm going to look at the last 5 games that is going to be happening in this midweek action. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 6 games? And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time.